Hello, everybody. Welcome and thank you for tuning in to Just Bleed Radio. Today is Sunday, the 25th of August, 2024, and this is the Weekend Roundup. Hey up, you bleeders. Yes, we're back to talk about another Apex card. This time one headlined by a middleweight bout between Jared Cannonier and Borralho. I was all ready to go on the attack tonight, but it's been the revenge of the nerds, because all in all, I think we ended up with a pretty good show. But I'm getting ahead of myself here. We'll get around to scoring it later, and by we, I of course mean my fellow lovers of the arts martial, Lazybed and Austin. However, I'll just do the standard request for you all to like, comment and subscribe. We're so close to 100 subscribers and we'd love to make it as soon as possible. We're coming up on our first anniversary, so it would be awesome to reach that mark in time for that. Today we'll be talking about the main, co-main and both Ultimate Fighter finals. As usual, we'll give our scores for the event, favourite fights, etc. And if we have time, there are a couple of bits and pieces to go over. And speaking of bits and pieces, let's hear a bit from our favourite can-killing Californian, Austin. How's life been treating you, good sir?
It was great. I had a great time last night. I don't remember much of the fights, but I had to watch the rewatch them this morning because I was having a great time. I'll be honest. If you noticed me in the chats, I was having a great time, having fun. I was having fun out there.
I sadly fell asleep partway through the night. Okay, I suppose that only leaves us needing a piece of Ohio in here. Luckily for us, he may be lazy, but when he's not learning Aussie or Yorkshire slang, he can always find time for the show, so I never have to mither him to be here. Hopefully, he'll be in fine fettle today. So how's that going, lad? Come on, lazy, speak up.
Oh man, well, gentlemen, I sold all my magic crystals in order to buy this new set of nerd glasses. So not only am I looking stylish, but I now have 20/20 vision. Let's fucking go back to school.
That's fantastic. And of course, we're being watched over by our editor, the one, the only, Super Dave Fairtex, and his faithful companion, Chatray. Yes, hello, Chatray. Good to hear from you. Great that you didn't try and eat Dave's dad last week. Good boy.
Jesus Christ.
Okay, time for the main event where Jared Cannonier took on Nerd Alert, Borralho. The fighting nerds are back in the cage, glasses and all. And I'm not sure it counted as a walkout, but we had Cannonier walking into the cage to snap, I got the power. I've got the power! Which is right in my era. I always think of it, the opening to The Perfect Weaponer, 1991 film, starring another guy desperately trying to jump on that era's martial arts hero kind of thing. You know, the Steven Seagal thing, but this guy actually looked decent. A guy called Jeff Speakman. He just starts off, he's doing some really slick looking kata. But enough nerding out, so I'll have a quick rundown of the fight. I'm just going to call him The Natural because his name really, really doesn't roll off my tongue. Round one, we had the early eye poke by The Natural. We had two calf kicks, both of which managed to knock Jared Cannonier to the floor. So it was a 10-9 round to The Natural. There were only a couple of decent shots from Jared. And then round two, we had a much stronger start from Jared. He did maybe hurt The Natural a little bit at some point during the ring. He did finish the round fairly strongly, so it was fairly close. I scored it at 19-19, and also had Mike Heck agreeing with me on that one. Saw him pop up on Twitter. I know Lazy will approve of that agreement.
Yes, sir.
And then round three, very close round until the last minute when again The Natural landed a nice 1-2 that just put Jared on wobbly legs. So he couldn't close it, but it was a clear 29-28 round. Then we had round four, which was another fairly close round. I think it was set in the corner. It could be 2-2. It could be 3-1. But the moment of that fight was the huge nasty cut that appeared under The Natural's right eye. I think that was worrying the commentary team a little bit, but as he said, it was underneath the eye, so it wasn't in such a bad place. Then we had round 5, which was actually the first time for the natural. He'd never been this far in a fight. And he, at some point, I think, I can't remember the exact time, but the natural dropped Jared, and it looked as if he was unconscious as he fell to the canvas. And I was thinking that maybe that fight should have been stopped there. I don't think anyone would have complained if it had been, but the ref let it get up to the feet, and then it ended up with the natural getting what turned out to be an easy win on points. We had 3 judges scoring it 10-8 in the final round, so there was no argument there. I don't think any judge made any particularly egregious things about it. No, a bit of dispute on round 1 and 2 whether either of them won. Anyway, it ended up with two scores of 49-45 and the other one at 48-46. So I guess we have to take this nerd pretty seriously now. He should come into the rankings at number 5. So I guess the question is, how long before we see him get a title shot? Or will he need one more fight? And I'll leave that thought hanging out there, and I'll throw the door open to, I think we'll go to Austin on this one. But what's your thoughts on that fight?
It's that old say. What's that same old saying? You know, Father Time is undefeated. And Jared definitely tried his hardest, man. He was in this fight. He just was a step behind. And when he would commit to countering, Borralho just wouldn't go away. And I think that was the thing that was kind of surprising about this. Like, I don't know about you guys. I did not expect this type of fight from Borralho. Now that brings up a separate point, which we'll probably talk about later, about grapplers becoming strikers. I might leave that point to Lazy, but no, I did not foresee this type of fight, and I picked Borralho because I assumed he was going to tackle him to the mat and just kind of put on a dominant grappling display. But that wasn't the case. He wanted to strike with the dangerous striker, and I thought that was a bad idea. But you know what? He's like if Costa was a more competent, more confident striker as of late, and he just stayed the course. He didn't try to do anything fancy. He didn't try to do anything that was outside the game plan. He's a nerd. He's going to stick to what he knows best. And that was the greatest part about this was like, even if he would get wobbled or, clipped, he stayed the course. He didn't get deterred. He didn't get discouraged. He literally would just, okay, shake it off. He was basically hand dabbing Jared all night, for accidental infractions or something like that. And it wasn't like anything was egregious, an accidental eye poke here, a slip of another, warning of the fingers and whatnot. Again, that's more of the gloves issue than it is on the fighter. Both men were warned. But it was a great fight for Cannonier. This is the sad part of fighting when the old warhorse can no longer keep up with the younger generation, even if they're more technically sound. Jared was the better striker at points throughout this fight, but he just could not keep up with the pressure or the pace. And these guys are big dudes. I mean, I forgot how fucking big Caio Borralho is. And if you looked at him, he kind of reminded you of Costa for how big he is. And he's just like walking
6'2" in height.
He does not look 6'2". He looks like 6'3", 6'3" and a half. And Cannonier, but that also might be because Cannonier doesn't look that tall for middleweight. I think he's on the shorter side of middleweight, as one of the shorter middleweights out there next to Gastelum. But that's one of those things. It's like you looked at Cannonier, and he was doing really great work with that right hook and just keeping that straight left occasionally. But like he just couldn't handle the damage that was coming back to him. And that was the thing. I think it's like if this was Jared Cannonier 5 years ago, he wins this fight. Also, Caio Borralho is finally growing into his own. He's no longer a prospect. He is a contender. I think that's the thing. When a contender shoots up and finally crosses that threshold, this is the performance you want to see from them. And I think he a little more things to work on, but I think he did a very, very great job of over. God, what's the verbiage I want to use here without he surpassed my expectations for him. and that was great to see. I don't know what you do with Cannonier though, but I don't think this is a bad performance from Cannonier either. But congrats to Kyle Borralho for pulling off a great decision win.
Jared Cannonier, 6 foot, by the way.
He is not. That is not what I saw in there.
That's what it says on Wiki.
That's not a true statement.
Tapology.
Someone's lying.
Tapology.
The natural is, as I said, 6'2". Lazy, anything to say on that one?
Oh yeah, buddy. Jared. Much like Jared from Subway, Cannonier got caught with his pants around his ankles and nowhere to run. Oh boy. That last sequence, man, boy oh boy. Like I tell you right now, you ain't taking that nerd's lunch money. You're not fucking taking that. Ain't happening. Did you guys see his outfit for the pre-fight too? That was pretty fucking awesome.
I saw the post-fight outfit with the flames on it.
Oh, that was the pre-fight as well. So he must have put the same suit back on.
All right, yeah.
Yeah. So in my opinion, Guy Fieri Borralho is a fucking beast, dude. He's a beast. I knew coming in that they would have a sound game plan. I said that they'd follow it to a T. That's what they do at that camp. They are the fighting nerds. But I did not see, as I think it was Dangermouse pointed out, Kaio standing with Jared for the vast majority of the fight. Like, I did not fucking anticipate that coming in at all.
That was Austin. I'll not try and steal that one.
Okay, yeah. Well, I am high and I can't remember, but that was a good point because I did not fucking see that shit coming. I really thought that we'd find ourselves on the ground sooner, but that definitely turned out to not be the case, and really not even a necessary move. There was a few moments where Jared did connect and have Kaio a bit rocked. He looked to be on chicken legs, spaghetti legs a little bit, but he recovered well, and it didn't seem like he needed to go shooting any desperation takedowns. So the game plan that I did not anticipate coming in, but a game plan that did work out. So they obviously must have saw something that they liked breaking down the film for this fight and decided that staying on the feet was their best path to victory here, and that turned out to be definitely fucking true. Either that or Borralho may have wanted to just make a statement, but in either case, mission accomplished because he had Cannonier down fucking bad. The slow motion replay of those shots that landed there in the fifth, like, my fucking goodness, dude. Like, those delayed streams of blood pouring out of his nasal passages and the look on his face, like, as he was going down, like, it was almost terrifying. Like, I was a little bit scared for Jared there in those replays, especially at his age, 40 years old, just coming off of the fight with Imavov where he was stepping in potholes again. So, and that was only back in like June or July, I want to say. So he's pushing the limits for a 40-year-old man. But yeah, I mean, all props to him though, because I don't know how he survived that. And if you ask me, I think Dan Mergliotta, also known as Mario Yamasaki 2.0, must have had some money on the line or something, because that fight should have been stopped.
I think so. I agree. Yeah, I have a take on that.
Yeah, but just to basically to wrap up, nonetheless, it was a huge win for Kaio and the Fighting Nerds camp. This ought to catapult him into the top 5, like you guys already touched on. And it also marks the Nerds' first UFC main event. So they continue along on their fucking hot streak. Been saying it for months. That's my pick for the gym of the year so far, unless something crazy happens. And then lastly, shout out to that fucking cut below Borralho's eye, because that thing was fucking gnarly. I have no clue how was that cut not spilling buckets of blood everywhere. Like, that was a fucking gash.
Clean cut usually doesn't bleed too much. Hopefully, at least I'm hoping that's the case.
Jesus.
They got a very good cut man in the corner.
Yeah. Well, it's the other thing too about this is, like, Dan, let them die. If he dies, he dies. Mergliotta he's just notorious for not calling fights when they should be called. I mean, all the way back to when Pat Barry was getting into Czech Congo's whole business, like dropping him multiple times and refusing to stop the fight because he's like, oh, it's not over yet. He's not actually dead, and then all of a sudden he comes back and uppercuts Pat Barry after a little check hook, and it's like since then Dan Miragliotta's train of thought has been, the fight will stop on its own, and I won't have to do anything. And that's been his entire career. Like even like last night, where he's just kind of like, all right, he's checking these guys, warning them about their fingers. Cannonier's mouthpiece kept flying out, and because he was getting cleanly hit in the face, and it wasn't him spitting it out, as someone has suggested. But I think that was Michael Bisping. But it's one of those things where it's like
Bisping was mocking the mouthpiece that he had. He said it was like he was in one of those boil and bite ones or something.
Yeah. Like as a cheap mouthpiece, like, oh, fuck off, Bisping. But that was the thing, though, is that like that sequence of getting rocked against the cage and then dropping the way he did, it looked like he was out, and that could have just been the fight right there. Like the minute he hits the mat, you can honestly call it. Do you have to? Not necessarily, but like most people would allow the fight to play out. That 30 to 25 unanswered strikes from Borralho. Any point from when he starts striking to when he actually starts, implementing that head and arm triangle or head and arm choke, you could have called it, and it would have been fine.
I mean,
for some reason, come on, Dan's looking at him like, oh, he's not dead yet.
The safest he was the safest he was at any point during that sequence was when he was in the arm triangle, and that's fucking saying something. Like when he was getting ground and pounded like that, like he was being clobbered, bro, like clobbered.
Yeah, I mean, God forbid Dan Miragliotta look out for the fighter safety every point again. And it's like Mike Beltran. It's like, don't make me do my job. Like, what the fuck are you here for? It's okay to call it early because it's okay to look out for the fighters. Now, there's certain circumstances where you probably don't want to do that, and that's understandable. But goddamn, dude, like, look, I don't agree with a lot of how Cannonier goes into fights sometimes, and sometimes he does happen to allow fights to get away from him at points, but like that doesn't mean we need to watch Jared Cannonier get bludgeoned to death. And it's not like he wasn't defending himself at points throughout this fight. He literally gets dropped, and as you see the blood spewing from his face, he's got that look of like he's not even there. And as he goes down, just getting bludgeoned on like right against the cage. And again, we've already been through this. This is not the easiest sport to, showcase to the fans, and boxing and football have their own situations where violent, finishes are part of it. This is one of those things where it's like, it's okay to kind of, end it before it continues. And realistically, the way it ended wasn't a terrible way either. Jared Cannonier showing how fucking tough he is. But I don't know. At some point, these refs need to be told, hey, it's okay to stop fights at certain points, but understand when that point comes. I don't know. That's just me.
Well, like you said, it's a beating when all three judges score it 10-8. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
There's no argument at all. So, yeah. All right. Anyway, let's move on to the next subject. Unless you wanted to jump in one last thing there, Laser.
Well, the last thing I wanted to say is that I think that the Nevada State Athletic Commission needs to investigate Dan Miragliotta because I think he had a bet on fight goes the distance.
Oh, shit.
Allegedly.
Oh, my God. Well, him and Herb, because Herb did that thing in Russia with CB Dalloway, remember?
Yeah.
I'm not saying it. I'm not saying I know anything. I'm just saying there's questions.
These are not the views of Just Bleed Radio.
Fair. That's fair. This is me.
All right, let's move on to the next subject before we get sued or something. We have the co-main, which saw veteran Angela Hill take on Baby Shark Tabitha Ricci at flyweight. Now, Tabitha Ricci clearly won the ceremonial weigh-in battle, and if you know, you know. Anyway, in this fight, Hill became only the third UFC fighter to pass 2,000 significant strikes. Now, I'm not sure if it looks that great if you can hit people so many times without finishing them, But she's in fine company because, of course, we have Max Holloway in first place and Sean Strickland in second place. But regardless of that, this was 3 rounds of just balls to the wall, if you'll excuse the expression. Before I heard the scores, I thought Richie had done enough for it. She was controlling the pace, and by that I mean pushing it, because, as I've said, this was constant action fight. She looked faster than Hill, and she also looked pretty crisp on her boxing. I don't remember her being a fantastic striker last time I saw her, but she looked fairly decent here. I guess that living with a pro boxer must help. And although, as Biz been quipped, when they're both in camp, it's probably a pretty dull household. There's not a lot of parties going on. Certainly not much alcohol in the place. This fight ended up with an uncontroversial, unanimous decision for Ricci. After the fight, Ricci said she was going to Thailand. It's a great idea. It couldn't hurt her. Her boxing has improved, so let's add some kicks to the product as well. And I believe this is also most likely taking her into the top 10. So again, we kind of have to ask what's next for these two. Maybe Ricci versus Hebas for reasons. But seriously, Angela Hill is getting on now. I believe she's 40 or 39 or 40 in this fight. I'm sure she makes a nice pretty penny from the UFC because she's been around for so long. She must earn a decent amount of coin, but I'm not sure. She's kind of, I guess, a gatekeeper again for the women. Whereas obviously Ricci is heading up the rankings right now. And I don't think we'll get the Hebas fight because Hebas lost her last one, so we know how the UFC works. Anyway, I'll let one of you two waffle on before I grind to a complete halt here.
Is it my turn?
You want
I
this
guess.
one, Lazy?
Yeah. Well, first off, to answer your question, as far as what's next for the two of them, because I forgot to answer you last time. Angela Hill, like you said, she is getting on in age. She's about to be turning 40 years old. She's a woman. She's 40. If you know that quote, you know it. If you don't, you don't. But she's got a lot of stuff going on outside of the octagon herself. She's got a podcast, I do believe, with Jessica Penne, Two Straws, I think it's called, something like that. She does a lot of commentary for the regional scene promotions on Fight Pass, and she's pretty good at it. I think her husband is somehow affiliated with coaching in MMA, so I mean, she's still got her connections, and I think that she'll be all right if her career does wrap up. But knowing her, I don't think she's going to want to go out on an L like this, so I think that we will probably see her back one more time. Who you match her up against, it's really hard to say. Ricci, what's next for her? Like you said, probably in the top 10 now. I don't have the rankings in front of me, but
Well, Hill was ranked at 9 before this fight.
yeah. So she's assumingly going to take her rank or somewhere close. What are these strikes?
Mackenzie Dern directly below her. Hebas, Marina Rodriguez, Lemos, Jessica Andrade, and then top 3 after that. We don't need to go there.
Yeah, Hebas could be a pretty good matchup. I think they're both pretty scrappy, and it could be a fun fight. But
when she's not fighting at 125.
this is true. Oh yeah, but anyway, as far as the fight itself, I'll try to be as kind and cordial here as possible because I'm not the highest on Baby Shark, man. I'm not the highest. You ask me, Tabitha Ricci, she doesn't have it. She doesn't have it, and they're shoving her down our throats at every opportunity, like Mouse said, for reasons. Don't get me wrong. She's a fair enough fighter, but there's absolutely nothing that stands out about her like game to me. There's nothing that she does that really like pops out when I watch her. Not the striking, not the wrestling, not submission game. She's not overwhelmingly physical or athletic. She's not exceptionally like driven to finish or has a strong killer instinct. She's just kind of mid by definition. Like she's the very meaning of middle of the road. Like, can she beat a fair amount of women at 115? Sure, I'm sure she can. But will she ever be a title contender or a divisional standout or something along these lines? No, I don't think so. I don't really ever see that being the case. And I didn't exactly like live score this fight, but headed to the cards, I really thought that there's a possibility one of these judges at least could have seen it going Angela's way. Turned out to not be the case. Numbers wise, Angie did outwork Tabitha in significant strikes, and I'd agree that the majority of her strikes seemed far more significant than Ricci's. She was snapping her head back on some of them jabs and various, other strikes of hers. So it seemed like Ricci's attack while she was moving forward and was pushing the issue didn't really have too much of an effect. So, it is what it is, though. Primarily an optics thing. So I'm not really mad at either lady for winning, but it was far from a statement victory or some sort of eye-opening performance, if you ask me. Uh, Good on you, Baby Shark, I guess. You beat a ranked 40-year-old fighter with a 500 career record. It counts for something.
God damn.
Lazy's going in hard on the veterans.
I know. It's just like she's. But it means do not represent the Just Bleed Radio. God damn. Was that it, Lacey? Was that it?
Yeah, that's it. That's all I got.
Oh my God. Well, I have to clean up the crime scene that was just committed here. Jesus. No, the truth is that, yeah, you're right, dude. Like, here's the thing. She's got to put together skill set that doesn't mesh well with the other skills. And if you're her coach and you're looking at her and you think, oh, she's a finished product, you don't know what you're doing. I'm not a coach by any means, but I've seen the sport long enough to know when somebody has good skill sets, they know how to blend them in through the fight. I mean, realistically, and again, Lazy had pointed a lot of this out, and she doesn't do any one thing great. Like, throughout the fight, there's moments where Tabitha's literally running into strikes, pushing through, clinching up against the fence to no avail of a takedown that makes sense. Or even when she's like throwing punches in through, Angela Hill is literally elbowing her on the exit or landing clean strikes when they're separating. And then she even went in for takedowns against Angela Hill. Tabitha's looking for like these like control points, and she can't control somebody who's not actually that great at grappling, which suggests there's an issue with your game. If you're known as a jiu-jitsu player who's athletic and got a gas tank, you should be able to override a lot of these defenses that your opponents have. Angela Hill is not by any means a good jiu-jitsu practitioner, yet she made you leave the jiu-jitsu parts of that fight because you didn't want to have to worry about it. That says something. And then the other part of it is like when she's kind of throwing her chin, she's flat-footed in front of her opponent. There are things that we can work on, and here's the thing that kind of annoys me about how the UFC does this is that this is the best performance she's had against one of the higher level fighters that she's faced. I didn't think that she beat Tisha Torres when they fought recently, Tabitha Ricci, and Angela Hill is not like you said, Lazy. She's almost like a 500 fighter inside the UFC. The sad truth is that this is possibly the best that she can look against a higher level opponent, and that says a lot. Either she takes a step back in competition so she can home in on specifics in her skills or clean up her skill set. Because if she faces anybody else inside the top 10, she's either gonna get finished or get bludgeoned. There's no two ways about it. I don't foresee her making a title run right now. Matter of fact, if she faces anybody within the top 10 that's able to basically, she doesn't have a complete game, they're just gonna run through her. And the sad part is that this is what happens when you rush a prospect through the rankings and then just will them into the top 10. That's what Tabitha Ricci is. She's good, and she'll beat majority of the top 15, like Lazy was saying. And again, Lazy pretty much hit this note for note, as brutal as it was. But she wasn't ready for this. if this is her now, she's not ready for anybody in the top 10. Not even at the bottom end of it. She's just not. And she takes a year off to clean up her skill sets, or she's got to face lower competition to help home in her skill sets. That's it. There's if you're performing like this with Angela Hill, you're either running her over or you're not good enough to face the top 10. That's just the truth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, as I said, she's going to Thailand, so hopefully she'll pick up some new tricks there. Anyway, we've gone off. We're carrying on way too long there, Austin. I was going to interrupt you at first, but I'll
I
let
finished.
you
I was done.
I'll let you rant on a little bit longer. So let's go on to the two TUF finals. First up, we had the featherweight fight between Khan Offley versus Myron Santos. Santos was on Team Nixick, which is always a good sign. I don't remember seeing much of these on the show, even though I did watch most of the fights, I believe. But this was a quick summary here. Round one was mainly Santos. He landed a couple of really heavy leg kicks that actually knocked Offley off his feet. Santos looking very crisp striker, good defence, always bringing his hands back to his face. Then round two, 1:30 left. Santos lands as clean a left hook as you could ask for, drops Offley to his knees, and then lands a few unneeded shots as Chris Donioni shouts, "Stop! Stop!" across the cage. Not exactly the greatest. We've just been talking about the other ref. Donioni had a few glitches last night as well. The thing about this one, I don't remember seeing someone slump like that when they've been hit. He was knelt down, unconscious. He had his head just about the perfect height to be used as a punch bag for hooks. And he did get a couple in before Chris managed to stop it. And then after the fight, he said, "I'm the new Alex Pereira." Well, if he keeps landing left hooks like that, then we can talk. So yeah, I'll chuck this one over to you, Lacey. I want to get to spinning on a few things. So yeah.
Oh, yeah. You actually brought up some of the stuff that I was thinking of as you were talking about it. Well, to start off, holy fucking shit, dude! Holy fucking shit! Like that, maybe the most impressive victory in a TUF finale ever. Like off the top of my head, I'm just thinking, and I can't really recall one that was that fucking much of a jaw dropper. Like, no, I didn't watch this season and I wasn't entirely invested, but whenever you hear it's a TUF finale, you do come in with a certain set of expectations, and boy, I fucking lived up to them, man. Goddamn, probably surpassed them. Yeah, you just talk about a fucking moment of the night, man. You drop off the drop off, the left hook, like you were saying, Danger, and the follow up shots, just fucking immaculate. We've said it before, I believe, on this very show that the most effective punch in MMA is the lead hook. Yeah, and it bore fruit once again. Just phenomenal punch there. The extra shots after, like you also touched on, in my opinion, completely necessary due to Tonioni's slow ass. Totally necessary, super necessary. Tonioni did have several blunders last night.
He did.
I don't know if it's just him getting old and slow, but like, bro, like pick up the fucking pace. What are you doing? First, you're in the apex cage, the small cage, and it still takes you that long to get over there. Like, come on, Tonioni. But yeah, I like this kid a lot. This Santos kid. He's got heart, he's got skill, grit, gusto. He's got the whole fucking package. 24 years old, so I mean, he's absolutely fucking ready to rock. He's ready to go. Looks like he's primed for a fucking run already. On top of the elite level performance itself, he also had one of the better post fight interviews of the night when he was accepting the trophy. Like you mentioned, Bros just straight up fucking called himself Alex Pereira. Like, I fucking lost it when he did that. I was like, dude, like whether that's true or not, that's a fucking badass thing to say. It got the crowd hyped, so I'd much rather a fighter say some preposterous, like wild shit on the mic afterwards than make a bland call out or something. So props for that. And then the part after he won, where he was shouting, "I want my bonus!" It fucking cracked me up. He sounded like Pee Wee Herman. And then also shout out, like you mentioned as well, you basically covered it all. Toddler hair, Eric Nixick in there. I had no idea that Santos was an Extreme Couture guy, so that was a big surprise. And loved the win. I loved the confidence afterwards. I think there's some pretty big opportunities lying ahead for Myron Santos.
Go on, Austin. Quick brief.
I picked Khan, and I thought he was doing well in the first, but just losing. And then when it came,
sorry, I didn't realize this was your one loss on the card. Now I know.
Yeah, this was the only one apparently that I had missed. I went for the slightly older, seasoned competitor, just based off of vibes, and that's kind of what I saw. I saw similar games from both gentlemen that I picked from the Ultimate Fighter finales, and in this one, I just figured he would have a little bit more veteran savvy, and he was in it. He was just a step behind against this young killer, and there's nothing else you can really say about it. This guy he's ready. He's ready. He looks good. I just want to see him built slowly, and I think that's the other thing is that we know that the UFC doesn't usually do that, but I'm excited to see his fights. But both of these guys actually, but we'll see what happens.
Cool. And then we on to the next one, which was the middleweight fight. Again, tough fight. Ryan Loader versus Robert Valentin. This was a fun one. In the lead up, we had Valentin telling us all about his first mushroom trip. The trees were bending over and he was communing with nature spirits and all sorts of good stuff. He became the first Swiss TUF finalist, but unfortunately, we're going to have to wait a little longer for the first Swiss TUF winner. This was kind of a weird one. Round one was a kind of back and forth grappling match. I was almost going to call it a little bit boring, but I think Austin would tear my ears off if I did that. Because we did have Loader flattened out at one point, face down, with Valentin riding his back, but he couldn't get the finish job. Then Loader actually managed to turn around inside Valentin's body triangle, which I don't really remember seeing happen very often at all. I don't know if that's a technique issue or what. We had the potential, this is the one where he threatened an arm lock and looked like Valentin might have injured his arm pulling out of it. Because he ran back to his corner and got ice potting apparently. And then round two, basically it was a takedown, a crucifix, Loader on top, and that was it. That was kind of the end of the fight. Very disappointing result for me. No cries of Odin in the Apex, but I guess it's congratulations to Loader. And I'm tempted to annoy someone here, but I did say that I'd be nice today. So I don't recall exactly how his fights in the TUF House went, but I was actually thinking that Austin, the sole supporter of Loader on the MK Discord, might actually know, but he's kind of just admitted, I think, that he doesn't know much about him. But I will say he was right behind his California wrestling buddy, and so it's looking like Austin's 10-1 card will make him the weekly champion again, whereas yours truly could only manage at 9-2. Damn you. Damn you. So, God damn it, sing his praises, Austin. Away you go, my friend.
It wasn't just like I looked at what he was as a fighter, and I looked at his record, and he's 33 years old. He's by no means a prospect. And the first thing I thought, and it's not true to the sense of who he is as a competitor, the first thing I thought of him was Chris Weidman when he first got into the UFC. He has a specific skill set that allows him to compete with guys who are just at the lower level that he just kind of can bulldoze through or compete well against. And that was the case. Valentin looked dangerous. I was kind of shitting myself. I was like, oh no, he's going to submit him. I'm going to look like an idiot. But he, son of a bitch, he pulled through. Ryan was just there, ready to just handle business as best as he needed to, and he performed admirably well considering what he was up against, a guy who was just vicious, looking for finishes the entire time he was fighting. And Loader was ready for all of it. Like, he was competitive throughout every single grappling exchange, and like Mal said, he literally was able to turn from a body triangle into his opponent, which is not easy to do if you've ever been in one. And on top of it, he was able to find a way to just keep pressuring his opponent in every single aspect of the grappling game, which is why I kind of looked at it. I'm like, he's an older wrestler, and if you know anything about wrestling, wrestling's hard on your body. He's ready for whatever grappling exchanges that they have. And this was like the perfect sense of, someone had mentioned this, and I can't for the life of me remember how or what it came up through. But if you're on the Contender Series, it's better for strikers. If you're in the Ultimate Fighter, it's better for grapplers. And if you've ever known anything about majority of the guys who come through the Ultimate Fighter, they got pretty good grappling skills to bring them through. Whereas a lot of the new guys that come in through Contender Series, they have great striking or decent enough striking to get them through, because they only have to worry about a handful of, situations in the Contender Series. Whereas the Ultimate Fighter, everybody knows what you're doing. Everybody knows, everybody sees each other. There's not a whole lot that you can hide. You're either going to blast through the competition, or you're going to be one of the guys that's going to show up and, just get caught before the actual competition gets started. And that's why I picked him. I had a feeling, and it paid off. And thankfully, nobody else picked him, so I get to look smart.
You kind of just blew my mind there with that fucking thing about Contender Series producing strikers and TUF producing grapplers. That makes a lot of sense, actually.
And I don't know where it came from, to be honest.
Well, when you think about it, on Contender Series, what do you need to do? You need to produce one exciting victory to get a contract. So you need to knock somebody the fuck out. You need to be a striker. On TUF, what do you need to do? You need to string together, 2 or 3 consecutive victories. So you need to be consistent. You need to be a grappler. It just makes
and you need to not take damage as well.
Exactly. Yep. Wow. Mind blown.
I have my moments.
Well, should I just carry on here now since I hijacked everything?
Yes. Oh, you're good. You're good. I was done.
All right. Well, gang, the MK Discord, that's what I mean by we called upon the Old Norse pagan gods, but our prayers went unanswered. What the fuck? As as JK pointed out last night, our boy Valentine here thought that the runes were going to protect him, but he was wrong. That's right. Our new Yuri Prohashka here met an untimely fate at the hands of the son of Kurt Loder from MTV News. That's going to go over a lot of people's heads.
Yeah,
And it's also entirely a false claim. I've completely made that up. But really, Ryan Loder, gets it done over Robert Valentine. I think that's how you say it, with the ground and pound TKO, 149 round 2. Crucifix, like you guys already covered. You don't see too many of those anymore. It's always one of my favorite sights to see in an MMA fight. It just makes the fucking referees nervous as shit, because you got a dude there who is completely helpless and he's totally at your whim. So I like crucifixes. It's a fun move. But I'll also be honest, I wasn't particularly tuned in to this season of TUF, like I previously mentioned, and subsequently, I wasn't exactly tuned into this fight. This was one of the fights where I was off doing other shit. But so while I was a bit in and out, doing a number of things, from what I did see, it looked like Valentine had a few moments of his own early, but kind of fizzled out fast. Maybe an adrenaline dump, or the nerves getting to him, or he could have just been completely outclassed. But ultimately, though, I'm not super high on either of these fellas. It's kind of a recurring theme for me. God, why am I going so hard? Loder he strikes me as the kind of guy he's going to run into someone who he's going to have good takedown defense and decent stand-up, and he's going to get fucking starched. Like, I'm not sure what exactly to make of Valentine, other than the fact that he clearly needs to shore up some holes, and time isn't exactly on either of these guys' side. More so in the case of Loder, who's 33, but even Valentine is 29. Doesn't have too long to fuck around, so
At the edge of his prime, though, in theory. So
yeah. I guess my only real thought here is congrats, Ryan Loader. You won a season of Tough that not even my degenerate loser ass tuned into. So good job, buddy.
I like that.
God
That's
damn.
perfect place to end it. Uh, so I guess someone might want to talk about another fight. We have to mention Kong Wang's second fastest KO at women's flyweight. Pretty much straight 1-2 that saw Leonardo down and out of it. I saw a little bit of Guru where he was laughing at his chat because they'd labelled Kong Wang as the gorilla cop. So
Oh shit.
yeah, sorry. I don't know whether Dave will censor that one or not, but yeah. Say she knocked Leonardo down. This was the only time Chris Tognoni moved with any speed because he was very quick to jump in. But so he must have tied himself out there for the rest of the night. But Wang herself already knew that moment was over. So it's not often that you see a walk-off KO from a female fighter. And I think it's between her and Santos for KO of the night. I'd actually give it to her just because of the speed of doing it. So yeah, what's your any of your guys' favorite fights you want to mention? Relatively quick one.
Go ahead, Austin.
Really, the Gerald Mershart situation. Did you want? Unless you Lazy was gonna bring that one up, and I'll choose the other one.
I might touch on it briefly, but go for it.
Okay, so it's a tale as old as time. Edmund Shabazian gasses and then chooses to do the wrong thing as Gerald Mearshart is getting his ass kicked, barely surviving, and then somehow managing to come back from the depths of hell to get a finish, and then subsequently become the man with the most middleweight finishes in the UFC. And then basically, did he pass Anderson Silva's thing, or did he tie it? Or I'm sorry, did he pass it or tie it? I can't remember.
He passed it, brother. He passed it.
Yeah, that's what was the thing. And God bless Gerald Mishart, a man who he's talented but looks sloppy as hell sometimes. But he did the thing. And if you watch the fight, you're wondering the same thing as we all did. How the fuck did he survive that? But he did, and he won. Good for him. As for Shabazian, I don't know what to do with that. That was a fun fight to watch, considering. But yeah, Shabazian doing the wrong thing at the wrong time usually is a thing that we kind of run ourselves into these days.
Battle of the Gingers.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Shabazian, man, he's pale as shit, dude. He's pasty.
Oh yeah.
Is this my turn? My turn now?
Yeah, go.
Yeah.
All right. Well. First, just a quickly touch on the Edmund Shabazian. A big what the fuck is wrong with you to Edmund Shabazian, who got choked the fuck out by the UFC's baddest stash, Gerald Mearshart. Edmund never was who he was claimed to be.
Glendale Fighting Club here with Edmund Shabazian.
We've always known that he's like a once-in-a-generation special fighter.
Oh, wow!
I'm here to be the best that I can.
He's forever a victim to being a serious hype job and just being affiliated with some of the bigger names who overplayed his potential. To steal a now updated statistic from our boy Long Island Luke in the main card minute, Edmund has now not defeated a fighter actively on the UFC roster since 2019.
Holy
That's
shit.
fucking ridiculous, bro. 6-5 in the promotion and going on 6 fucking years since he's beat someone who wasn't immediately cut. Just a crazy outcome for someone who was once thought to be the next big thing. And then the final detail here, like Austin brought up, GM3 now has the most finishes all time in UFC middleweight history with 12, surpassing everyone's favorite Anderson Silva. And he has also tied Damian Maia for the third most submissions in UFC history with 11. Good job, Jerry.
Yeah.
And then, real quick, since I'm already going, my honorable mentions. Honorable mentions for me, I got to go with Michael Morales first off. Beat the absolute dog shit out of Neil Magny. Thorough walloping. He treated Magny how Magny treated him a lot. So that's a little bit of karma there. He did to Neil what Machado Gary could not. He finished him. soundly. Kid is 25 years old, 13 of 17 career wins by finish, 12 of those by KO TKO. Bright future ahead. And then second one, Wang fucking Kong. You guys brought her up. Chinese Joker. Well, why so serious, Victoria Leonardo? Probably because you got knocked the fuck out. I think they said it on broadcast. That was the second fastest finish in women's flyweight history.
Yeah.
Fucking pretty impressive. Holds a kickboxing win over Valentina, which has been discussed everywhere leading up to this. And then after, much like Santos earlier in the night, later in the night, she had a phenomenal post-fight interview. She was confident, she was fired up, she was motivated. I fucking loved it. So shout out to Wang Kong.
Austin making some noise there. Right, let's get on with scoring this thing. I guess we always give a card a score. So let's hear from, I don't know who. In fact, let's go with Lazy for the first time. First time I remember anyway.
All right.
So Austin gave us a very low score, I think, last week, didn't he?
Yeah, I think he did.
I was the lowest out of the group. I wasn't a low score.
Lowest out of the group, first time ever.
Yeah, it's fair. That's fair.
It might be good to go to me first. I'm feeling a little generous. I tried to find some reasons to hate on this one, but there really weren't too many at the end of the night. Like, shout out though to the Lithuanian guy from TUF who had his fight fall through before the card started. I was kind of looking forward to seeing him just because BC's Lithuanian, so that's kind of bullshit. Realistically though, like, I'm not mad about this fight night. It felt almost like a pass the torch kind of card where lots of younger talent was emerging as older fighters were taking a back seat. You had new Ultimate Fighters crowned. You had a handful of fun finishes. There wasn't much name value, so name value hurts it a little bit, but all in all, I can't hate on it. But better than average results for a fairly average list of names. My predictions could have gone better. That's on me though for flip flopping. Yeah, maybe it's me knowing that we don't have many Apex shows left before we get our year-long break. Woo! Maybe I'm just getting soft, but I'm gonna be generous by my standards. I'm gonna go with a 6.9.
A 6 point
Wow.
what?
6.9.
6.9.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. I can now see Lazy counting down the days until the Apex's return. Crossing them off in his calendar. He goes through the year. Go on, Austin. I'll let you go next.
All right. I am not going to be as harsh as I was comparatively to the pay-per-view that we just watched. I feel like this was a great card. This is the type of Apex card that we should be getting on a regular basis, where there's just more excitement, there's better matchups, and there's just more. There's more on the line on these cards, and that's what you want. However, it relied on the Ultimate Fighter, which not a whole lot of people even saw, and that was the other thing that was kind of it's as unfortunate as it is. No one really watches TUF, and I, as much as I usually have more sympathy for TUF winners, these guys kind of performed, and they're bound to perform well inside the UFC. But I mean, if no one watches the show, is it really worth to watch the majority of their fights at the end of the day? But I mean, that's neither here nor there. My thinking on this is that this card to me was an 8.5. And that's not because I got 10-1 on the picks. Not at all. No, not associated with that whatsoever. What do you mean? How did you assume that? But no, 10.5. I had fun watching it. And honestly, if the Apex gave us more cards like this, because the UFC is so penny pitching, I'd be more inclined to watch more Apex cards like this.
Yeah.
Very good. Yeah. On the whole, I can be pretty happy with my picks from this card too, because prior to this, in the Discord, we were talking about what date our show started on, listen, and so I ended up listening to the first episode where I was singing the praises of Cavalcante. So I actually switched that pick on the night of the fight. So I was like, oh yeah, I remember. I said she was good. I actually learned something from myself. Yeah, fantastic. And then the other one was the Dennis Bazooka versus Francis Marshall. That I switched to Marshall literally like a minute or two before the fight started. And that was the one that then Lazy chirped up after it was over. I think that he'd also changed that one, but he changed it the other way. He changed over to Bazooka, so I came up on that one. This was, to my mind, a very fun card. I really enjoyed it. We got a nice mix, roughly 50-50 between finishes and decisions. Most of the judging was okay, although Big John's son, Ron, did his best to cause an upset, scoring Nunes 10 in all 3 rounds. Not sure how he did that. So yeah, there was not a fight I was bored with on this card. I was disappointed in a couple of results, mainly Loader doing the St. Valentine's Night Massacre and GM3 winning. I kind of don't mind that one at all. It's always nice to see one of the veterans getting a win, and especially when it took him up to, as been previously mentioned, the 12 submission wins, the most at middleweight. So if I'd score it, I'm going to score it high. If we'd had a finish in either the main or the co-main, I think we could have been talking record highs here. But I think I'm actually gonna agree completely with Austin, and I'm gonna go for 8.52.
Yeah.
Let me come clean real quick. The only reason I gave it a 6.9 is because I wanted Dave to have to put 69 on the screen.
Suitably childish. We approve. Speaking of our editor, before we wrap up, we did have a suggestion or a request from him for our opinions on something. He said, I don't think it's stuff y'all normally cover, but the MMA Hour crew leaving Vox and going to Yahoo of all places is kind of weird. Now, I only watch occasional bits of the MMA Hour. If a fighter comes on that I really like, I'll listen to it. But it's a fairly small number of fighters that I actually want to hear talk. I just want to see you punch each other's brains out. I'm sorry. I'm vicious like that. So sorry if one of you two wants to give a comment on it.
Yeah, I can go a little something on it. Well, for one, I think it's a really good thing, actually. It's always good when there is a shakeup of this magnitude in the MMA media space because, as we know, this is an ever shrinking space as far as on a professional level and guys that are actually able to do this for a living and make a good living at it. So for Ariel to jump ship from Vox and go to start his own new, I'm not sure what you want to call it, enterprise, it's a really good thing because it's not just him. He's bringing a load of people with him, and this is going to be a new avenue and a new outlet for MMA beat reporters and things of that nature and people in this space to find work and to get exposure. And it's also going to open up a new vein of information that we weren't previously getting because it's not like Vox and MMA fighting are going anywhere. It's just Ariel and his select handful of people. And so ultimately, all in all, I think it's a really good thing. And I think a shakeup in this space is always a welcome thing.
Agreed. Oh yeah, sorry. So I am not as big of a fan of Ariel. I respect the hell out of him, though. Any man that's had to deal with the berating of Dana White and the fans the way that he has, and from fighters and managers as he has, it is not easy to deal with, especially if you listen to some of the stories that go out there about how he's had to kind of deal with one-on-ones and whatnot. And realistically, I may not always agree with how he, looks at the sport or how he thinks the sport can and should be, but I respect the hell out of him. And I wish him and everybody that happens to go over there at Yahoo, the former home of Kevin Iole, who ended up getting booted and starting his own business with his own little production, which is also why he's a lot more cozier to Dana White, if you haven't noticed. But that's neither here nor there. When there's more players in the space, like Lazy was saying, it's better for the overall environment or ecosystem of news for this sport. And if you kind of notice, a lot of the fandom doesn't usually listen to a lot of what the news outlets have to say. They usually kind of listen to what the UFC says, and sometimes it's good to get differing looks and opinions, especially when we live in today's media space.
Yeah,
Agreed.
well, I think we're all guilty of watching enough MMA shows or listening to them.
Yeah.
Especially
Yeah, we're
the-
degenerates, so it comes in hand.
Yeah, we do have our resident chat room hoeing on the show with us tonight. So.
He's doing the good. He's doing the Lord's work. He's doing the Lord's work. Look.
Do the Lord's work. Yeah, he brought us extra subscribers yesterday, so he can do no wrong today.
I could tie this all back to Ariel by saying, "Who, me?" Yes.
I just want to mention this because I bloody cut it out of the after the fight. But I don't know if either you two noticed it. Tabitha Ricci doing the tomahawk elbow.
No, I didn't see it.
Yeah, I'll leave it. I'll leave it to Dave to put it up. It's a short enough clip that Dave should be able to put it up. You can watch it because I dare say we'll do a premiere and watch this all together. So yeah, take it away, Lazy. Whatever you want to say.
First up, Su Young Yu from the Road to UFC tournament. Not the most entertaining scrap on a whole, but there was one of the coolest sequences of all fucking time in this fight. At one point, Yu went for some kind of like judo throw on his opponent, and in the process, he hit basically like a cartwheel float over into the back
yeah,
take.
I saw that. Yeah.
Yeah, he did a cartwheel float over into the back take and nearly sunk in a rear naked choke. But I don't know if that was practiced, intentional, or just completely by chance, but legit, it was one of the sickest moments I've ever seen. If he had secured that choke and got the finish, it would have been an all fucking timer. And then lastly, props to Luis Franciscanelli, 6'6" middleweight menace, just racking up W's down in the LFA. Put on a masterclass performance against a guy Friday night. But he's tall, long, and lanky, but he's got some real fucking pop behind his punches. Also a training partner of MMA Fighting's E.K.C. Leiden. And rumor has it that a little birdie told him we can be expecting a call up to the big show soon. So much deserving and props to Luis Franciscanelli.
Did either of you see the the face off between Francis and I can't remember the guy's name. Apparently,
Henan Ferreira.
Yeah,
apparently said some very unpleasant things to Francis, mentioning his kid and all sorts.
Oh, fuck that, dude.
No,
Come on.
supposedly, I'm going to come to his defense because it was, I guess, a misinterpretation, like language barrier type thing. He was referencing himself being his biggest problem as an opponent, like that he's recently faced. He wasn't saying his biggest like problem in life, which is how it was interpreted.
Ah, right.
So-
I just saw Luke, before we came on. I watched Luke Thomas doing an interview, and he was talking about it.
Well, if he didn't want to piss off Francis, now he did, and God help him.
Yeah, that guy is huge though. What is he? 6'8", 6'9"? He
Yeah.
looks it.
Yep.
He makes Francis look small. We've had Francis for 2 years since he's done an MMA fight. I hope Nick Sick can get him in shape if he's going to do anything against him.
Best part of that face off was Jake Paul being stuck in the middle of those two behemoths.
Yeah, Thomas, turn around and tear Jake into tiny pieces. That'd be a fantastic way to end it. The only other thing we could have spent some time riding John Jones, but of course Tom Aspinall has been doing that all week.
Yep, doing a great job at it too.
Yeah. John, come here.
Oh, come on, John.
Okay, time to wrap things up. There's no UFC next week, and there was talk of a holiday, but we'll see what we can rustle up. Maybe we'll do a risky early picks video for UFC 306, or maybe we'll come up with something to celebrate our anniversary. We'll see how it goes. So until then, don't forget to like and subscribe. Leave us a comment. It's always fun to hear from you. And if you got it this far, next time, be sure to listen to us on our premiere, because all the gang will be there in chat most likely. And until then, we'll see you next time. So Austin's keen to make noise, so let's go, boys.
Yeah.
Bye bye, bleeders.
Yeah, 1 year anniversary coming up. Let's fucking go. Yeah.
100 subscribers.
Yeah, 100, yeah. It's had the anniversary of the show off. Close to my birthday. So I haven't watched it.
Oh, shout out to Main Card Minute and one more round fights.
Yeah.
Not necessarily. Fucking Dave popped in with his Kim Jong-un picture and it set off a chain of events.
There's no surprise then that Craig is. So fuck you, Craig.
Fuck you, Craig. Trying to get us caught up right now. You know, he fights horses. He doesn't fight. He doesn't have people fight. He also starves his people. So it's like,
Saw the fighting nerd Kim Jong-un that Dave posted. That's good. That's good.
Yeah. The fact it has dough on the end of it means it's not a true combat sport. So just like judo, isn't it? I mean, I know judo. My mind went blank.